Special Saturday afternoon live stream. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton of On Texas Football. Gerry, Longhorns went to DKR for a practice. Parents were invited. A number of other people there as well. They finished around noon today after starting around 9:45. Lots of little nuggets that we've learned in the hour since that practice is gone. We're going to try to share those with you guys. This will be Scrimmage Report 1 of more than we'll also have one later today after we are able to talk to some more sources. But Gerry, some of the big news to start with, let's start in the running back room. Okay, let's start in the running back room where we were wondering who would be running back number 3. And then also there's some other news that might be of interest to folks. I'll let you go with it today.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is Jarrett Gibson was running back 3 today. Him and Christian Clark both got reps. Both need to work on a little ball security. May have had an issue in the red zone there, each of them. Darian Gillette did get a couple of inside zone run attempts. He was the 5th running back today. He was also 3rd-team linebacker. So he was out there at linebacker with Brady Sarkisian, I think. But he did get a few reps at running back, and they gave him a couple of inside zone runs. I think one of them he went for about 8 or 10 yards. Does that mean he's going to play? We're not saying that at all. That may just be the emergency running back, somebody that works in case of another injury. But again, that is Jaden Blue 1, Trey Weisner 2. Trey Weisner had about a 30-ish yards catch and run on a screen where he kind of showed some speed with Ant Hill chasing him. By the way, we'll get to Anthony Hill. Anthony Hill had a monster scrimmage, guys, monster scrimmage. So I'm just kind of going through one minor injury. Maurice Blackwell got nicked up in the scrimmage, upper body of some sort, and when he collided on a run play of Christian Clark, who can bring a little load power there. So not thought to be a major injury. We'll see. I mean, look, you got to kind of see on that stuff, but wasn't thought to be a major injury, but that was in a run fit against Christian Clark, and Christian Clark brought those powerful legs.
Hey, Gerry, let's start. Let's go position by position. I think that's the best way. That way we can kind of splice it down in bite-sized portions. One of the quotes that I got from someone there, and this was awesome. The quote was, these quarterbacks are good, and I don't even like quarterbacks. I thought that was a good conversation starter for this. The Longhorns, obviously, Quinn Ewers 1, Arch Manning 2, Trey Owens 3. Ewers, I don't have much on him yet today. Hopefully we'll have more in a little while. You mentioned Arch Manning to me. You had heard a little feedback from him. Please tell folks what you heard there, Gerry. And if you heard anything on either Trey Owens or Quinn Ewers as well.
Yeah, more Quinn and Arch for me today. I think Quinn had a solid day. I think the guys that maybe he may have the most rapport with right now are Golden. And I've said this before, he really likes Matthew Golden. And Silas Bolden, who had the catch of the day on an out route, fully extended, body fully extended parallel to the ground on an out route. And Ryan Wingo apparently followed up with a fully extended 12-yard out route as well. But Quinn had a strong day with Golden, Bolden, and Bond. Somebody said maybe Bond might not quite be 100%. Maybe it had been a little limited. We'll see on that, but nothing major at all. But those Golden, I think, and Quinn have built a really good rapport from what I hear. With Arch, we had a strong command in the 2-minute drill. He connected with Ryan Wingo 6, 7, 8 times in 2-minute drill. So those guys have a really good rapport. But those are the receivers mentioned today, and everybody had their place. I think DeAndre Moore had a touchdown in the scrimmage, but it was really Bolden who had the catch today, and his speed was just, even in that setting, the first scrimmage setting, his speed looked a little different than other people's from what I was told. And then Wingo had a strong scrimmage. Jonte had a couple of catches. DeAndre Moore mixed in with a couple of catches. DeAndre Moore, somebody said, did have a touchdown catch there. But it kind of looks like Golden is making a push right now, according to what we heard today.
Good stuff. A lot of different receivers out there. They mixed and matched again today, is what I was told.
Yeah,
there was no first team. There was a first team and there was a second team, but then it all got mismatched whenever they went to 1v1s.
Yeah,
everybody played against everybody, etc. So I think that those are all things worth thinking about and talking about, Jerry, as we go forward. Arch, though, at quarterback did have an interception you mentioned to Makuba in the end zone.
Makuba in the end zone, but apparently Arch had a really good day. Quarterbacks performed well.
Gotcha. All right, tight ends. Amari Niblack's name is one that was mentioned to me as getting out there early. Gunnar Helm, Juan Davis allegedly had a pretty good day as well.
Juan Davis caught, I think, what would have been a 30-yard touchdown on a wheel route. But really, he's going to have a chance to make his kind of first real game contributions at Texas in a blocking role. I think he's excelling in some of those areas, which is what we've talked about before. But he did have a nice catch on a wheel route based on what we heard today as well. But look for him more in the blocking role. Amari Niblack, Sark's going to use him as he's going to be one of those toys. He's going to line him up everywhere. Because he is a mismatch. He is a walking mismatch. He's a problem. So I think you're going to see – I'm not sure they're going to ask Niblack to do the same blocking things as much as they asked Jatavion Sanders to do. But I think they may use him maybe versatility-wise within the scheme of the offense, maybe even more.
I want to go back because we need to mention this at receiver. We did not. It's our understanding Aaron Butler and Freddie DeBose were both held out of this scrimmage for whatever reason. DeBose has been kind of in and out all spring and summer, still healing from the knee injury. Butler, though, being out would be a little bit different. Let's move the offensive line, Jerry. I've yet to get hear back much on that situation. I was told that Andre Kojo was expected to miss a lot of this scrimmage. Kojo's been making a move at right tackle this fall camp, but expected to go first was Brandon Baker. Second string right tackle was supposed to be Brandon Baker today instead of Andre Kojo because Kojo had a little bit of a nick and was nicked up a little bit. We'll see a little bit more later. There was no change in the starting lineup, is my understanding. No. But beyond that, I don't have enough info right now on the offensive line. Overall, we'll go to defensive line next. But overall, Jerry, I would add back to this point. It started off the scrimmage as described to me was ones versus twos.
Yeah.
And then twos versus ones. And then they went 1v1.
Yes.
2v2.
Yes.
And that is how they ran the scrimmage today. A lot of news and information.
Red zone work, then 2-minute drill. Then they did some running, some sprint work at the end, some conditioning to close it out.
So ones vs twos, twos vs ones, then 1-and-1, 2-and-2, then also some 3v3, I think, and then red zone, 2-minute drill, and out. Good stuff. All right, defensive line, Jerry. You were texting me something that I thought was very interesting, and it had to do with pass rush. Let's get to some of the sexy part of this report, I guess. Tell us about Colin Simmons on the field at the same time as Trey Moore and Anthony Hill in what Rod likes to call the NASCAR package.
Yeah, I want to start with Tia Savea. I think had some good plays today as well. I think Tia Savea's name was mentioned to me, and that continues kind of. I think he's, but obviously Collins and Broughton were the top two. They were your number 1, 2 guys. But Savea, I think, had his moments once again, so that's carrying over from the spring game. Bill Norton is obviously an over-the-ball player. So the interesting thing was then in the NASCAR package that Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons as a Sam backer were your linebackers, Trey Moore and Burke off the edge. So that is pretty significant. When Texas is going to rush the passer, it's those obvious third downs, it's those obvious passing downs, and they go to that NASCAR package. Simmons, Hill, Moore, and Burke were the guys today with Simmons as a Sam linebacker. Now, Trey Moore worked out at that Sam linebacker in that in that NASCAR package in the spring. So there may be some interchangeableness there. This is a scrimmage. They're just working with parts, right? So that is one thing I heard that I thought was really interesting. And again, that Anthony Hill had a tremendous scrimmage. He had a hit on Jarrett Gibson in the hole that was I think that was pretty loud one, right? And
welcome to college football, Jarrett Gibson.
Yeah, and Anthony Hill made a lot of plays today, from what I was told, which he would have beat Kelvin Banks and Brandon Baker for sacks. Big hit on Jarrett Gibson, like I mentioned, and Kelvin Banks is solid. I mean, Anthony Hill. I mean, you know, look, here's the issue. Here's one of the things for Texas. If you move Anthony Hill around and he plays in the mic, and you move him around and you bring him off the edge with Trey Moore, that's a little different game than what Texas has been able to do in the past. That's a little different. So that's just something to watch, how they package everything together in their blitz packages. So that's what I heard. The NASCAR package was very interesting to me, though, with Hill and Colin Simmons at the Sam, Moore and Burke on the edge.
Again, this is our first scrimmage report. We'll have an opportunity to talk to some other folks later today, and then come back with a second scrimmage report as well. Jerry, you mentioned Mo Blackwell may have been nicked up a little bit.
Yeah, from what I heard, it was a run fit against Christian Clark, carry on Christian Clark, and I mean, look, we got to wait for staff and wait what comes out, but it wasn't thought to be a major injury.
Okay, fair. Secondary, other than the Makuba interception, anything noteworthy there? It sounds like the quarterbacks had a good day, which usually doesn't mean much good for the secondary, but what do you think?
Yeah, so Gilbo was number one at nickel, at star or nickel. Barron got a few reps at corner. What's interesting, Makuba, we talked about, had the INT on Arch in the red zone. Taff and Makuba, the most run with the ones. Derek Williams, McDonald also got reps with the ones. Derek Williams with the ones in the red zone, with the ones red zone. An interesting thing they did, though, was they subbed, and they're just tinkering, guys. This is what they're going to do against freaking Michigan. They're tinkering. They're trying things out. They substituted Bill Norton out in the red zone a couple times and brought in Barron and Gilbo, and essentially had two nickels on the field at the same time. And I think they were looking at that from a communication standpoint. So I don't think they're doing that against Michigan. I think they're tinkering on what would they do against certain teams, certain opponents, right? But that was interesting that they had both Gilbo and Barron in a couple of times in red zone defense.
I'm looking at it and just looking at overall commentary right now that we've got. Some of the headline news: quarterbacks look good. I mentioned that. At running back, Darian Gillette is essentially sounds like maybe the emergency running back now that they were down to 4. He got some time today at running back for the Longhorns, we believe. Now Jarrett Gibson was running third team after that means Christian Clark fourth team. Both Jaden Blue and Trey Weiser 1 and 2. At wide receiver, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, and Ryan Wingo singled out, as well as Isaiah Bond. DeAndre Moore apparently caught a touchdown pass. And then we also had Jonte Cook with a few pass receptions as well. That's your top 6 receivers. Amari Nyblack apparently showed out pretty well in this scrimmage at tight end. Along the offensive line, we don't have much yet. We don't know if Andre Kojo played much. We're going to
I think he played a little bit, but Brandon Baker, like you said, got probably more reps with the 2s. And I think that's probably the way it's been. But Brandon Baker got plenty of 2 reps at right tackle. Okay, good stuff. And then on the defensive front, you mentioned Tia Savea is having some standout plays. We talked a little bit about that pass rush package. And then Anthony Hill, probably the linebacker, if not the defensive player of the game. Is that kind of defensive player of the scrimmage? Is that what you kind of took away from that? Yeah. Look, based on what I've heard, Anthony Hill had a hell of a day. So he had a really good, strong day. Again, rushing the passer, playing linebacker position, coming up and filling in the run game, plus then rushing the passer. He had a strong day. All right. We've got a couple questions we can get to. Remember, this is not a full report, so this is not finished. We will have more later today. We wanted to get something out because we have got
a little bit of information for you guys, as you can tell, but we want to get more out there as well. We're also going to have some on ontexasfootball.com, so be aware of that as we go forward. Jerry, one of the things I thought was interesting was you said that Arch Manning and Ryan Wingo seem to have developed a rapport, just like Quinn Ewers and Matthew Golden seem to have developed some. You agree with that? Is that what?
Yeah,
and
I think that's natural with Arch being two quarterback and Ryan Wingo has been running with the twos, the whole time. Not that they don't rotate guys in and out, but yeah, there's especially in that 2-minute drill, from what I heard, that Arch and Wingo connected a few times in that, especially during that 2-minute drill. Okay. And apparently the best thing I heard on Arch today was he had really good command in those 2-minute drills. So when it's the most stressful time and you're processing the fastest, I think Arch really stood out today.
All right, Randy Jones has a question for us, Jerry. What do you make of Gillette taking snaps at running back today? I had heard that they were going to try, but I thought it was going to be after the coaches convened on Saturday or Sunday after the scrimmage. I was a little surprised to hear that he took some today. That's good stuff, though, for the young man from Marlin.
Yeah, I mean, so the reality for Texas is they are – we don't – look, we hope it doesn't happen, but you're one more injury away from being down the 3 scholarship running back. So they have to get some preparedness there because guys are going to get nicked up throughout the season. So it's interesting that it's Darian Gillette. Obviously, he has the size to maybe be an inside or, that in between the tackles guy, maybe potentially a red zone guy. Because, again, one of the things I'm going to want to point out is that Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark do have to they're young backs. So that ball security, a couple of red zone issues today from what I heard there. The three guys that probably were their first red zone backs were Blue and Gibson and Christian Clark. But Darian Gillette, look, you're one more injury away at that running back position from having some issues. So I think they had to start looking at who a guy could be as the emergency running back if it comes to that point, which you hope it doesn't.
You really don't. But he was running third-team linebacker as well. So we'll see exactly what that means. Look, Mo Blackwell gets injured. That could push Darian Gillette higher up the chain too. We'll see exactly what that means as well. Tom Bregman asks, who looked good on both sides? We mentioned the quarterbacks. We mentioned a few of the receivers, and you mentioned Anthony Hill. Do you have anybody you talked to, Jerry, have anybody else to add to that you heard that looked really good?
Yeah, TSFA, I think, had his moments. So I think that's kind of been a continuance from the late second half of the spring. So heard him as far as within that rotational D line. One thing we haven't heard is how much Jermaine Lole actually played. There's going to be a pitch count. They're going to save him a little bit more. Bill Norton got his share of snaps. Sadir Mitchell conditioning is still his issue. It's not lining up and playing the run. It's running onto the field and running off the field after playing a couple of plays. I mean, you got to be able to do all those things from a conditioning standpoint. And I think that's still a struggle for Sadir from what I heard.
Goodness gracious. All right. Hey, any news on how the running backs did in pass protection? I personally didn't hear anything yet. I do know that some guys made some nice runs in the scrimmage. We talked about this a little bit. Other than a big tackle on Jarrett Gibson, the whole I heard Gibson actually made some nice plays inside as well. So, Jerry, you have anything else on the running backs?
No. Somebody asked about Nick Sanders. He's not. I don't expect him to factor in at all. He's a walk on, and we'll get some practice reps.
Gotcha. Is Nick Sanders?
I mean, the way to look at with all that is if he was going to be a factor, you don't move a linebacker to running back.
I would agree with that. That's a great way to put that. All right, Jerry, this one from Doug Haywood. Do you think it is more of a responsibility of Quinn Ewers to get the young freshman running backs ready as much as it is Sark and the rest of the offensive coaching staff? I mean, I can see a little bit of that, but I think that really this is the Tashard Choice is going to be the one that's coaching them up.
Yeah.
Now, Ewers may be directing them once they get on the field. So there's that level, especially in a scrimmage setting, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
But as we talked about it, there's no. I tried to describe this way. They came to campus and Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark have been on training wheels to this point, really.
Yeah.
Well, now they're riding the bicycle. The training wheels are off. That doesn't mean they're getting thrown in the fire yet, but the training wheels are off and they better get going. And that does mean that everybody involved is going to have to be part of that. But really, Steve Sarkisian, Tashard Choice, the primaries on that.
We've had a lot of Andre Kojo comments. I want to mention this on Kojo. I think the thing to remember with Kojo is that guy was 16 when his mom dropped him off in Austin, and he turned 17 shortly after that. He is a extremely young redshirt freshman by age. So he's an extremely young offensive lineman in terms of physical development. And he is starting to ascend and make a positive move there. But I just always want to remind people, he's about as young of a player that is early enrolled at Texas. Still 16 when he enrolled. Turned 17, I think, that week when he enrolled. That is extremely young for an offensive lineman in college football. So redshirt year, he is just remember him in terms of development in the next couple of years, I would think. Patrick Page, I want to bring this one up because I have a comment here. I heard Lole is making a push to be a third guy in a rotation with Burton and AC. I'll say this. I've been told that Collins and Lole are considered the two best interior defensive linemen that Texas has. But Lole, he's on a pitch count. They just want to get him to the season. He has a lot of experience. There's no need with his injury history to push him through all these practices and scrimmages and play him a lot. I don't think with his injury history, that's what Texas is going to do. He's on a pitch count. Him and Collins are considered the two best players on the interior defensive line.
That's a mouthful right there at this point. All right. Look, a couple of people are asking, how did Cam Williams look at right tackle, stuff like that. There's news. This is very early. Scrimmage report. Scrimmage stopped a little more than an hour ago at this point. The parents were still having a barbecue with the players and the coaches and the admin as we're starting this live stream. So give it some time. There'll be more news out of it later today. We'll be back as well. CJ Vogel and Blake Monroe will also be on giving what they've heard as well, Jerry, and we'll go from there. Anything you want to discuss here, Jerry? There's one super chat, and I want to mention this before we let people go or take any more questions. Ryan Nelson, Bobby, the OU defense will be very good, but that dreadful O-line and Arnold being a turnover machine is why they will go 7-5. Hawkins is the quarterback in 2025. Maybe so. Let's wait and see, though. I'm anxious. I'm ready for Texas to beat OU this year. But we'll have to see exactly what that means in due time.
I just got a text on Cam Williams because people have asked. So I wanted to say that looked really good today. Easily visible weight loss, body reshaping for Cam.
Yeah, I the first couple of days of practice. I mean,
bottom line with Cam Williams is if he has a really good season, he's going to do what Amarius Mims did. Now, is that first or second round? I don't know. But the feeling in Austin is this guy could be a first-round pick if he has a really good season. As a first-year starter, an only-year starter. So we'll see what happens. Michigan's going to bring the heat at him and DJ Campbell, so they're going to get tested right off the bat.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, I tell you what, this has been a quick one, but we wanted to get out there. You have more to come? What do you want?
Yeah. I wanted to answer a recruiting question because we did have a recruiting question, and this is important. Let's see. Where was this? Jake Miranda asks, were there any recruits at the scrimmage? No, we're during the dead period. No face-to-face contact with recruits and college coaches right now. So
unless it was a family member, like a young family member.
Right.
Yes. But no specific one-on-ones.
Texas couldn't invite Michael Fasusi down for the Texas scrimmage today.
Correct.
If Jamie French called and said, hey, I want to come to the scrimmage, Texas would have to say no. Dead period. Can't do it.
I want to add this. Nathan Tillman is expected to announce his decision coming up in the next 45 minutes. That's the safety out of Mansfield. Texas. He is expected to choose Utah at this point, we believe. TCU also gave chase, as did Texas, for a little bit of time. But it sounds like more and more he is expected to choose Utah. If that changes at 2:00, we'll be back here talking a little bit about Nathan Tillman and what he plans to do.
Can I bring up one more?
Yes, absolutely.
Stephen Houston. If Cam Williams plays well enough to be a first-round pick, and we're not saying he is, but there's a thought that he is that talent level if he has a really good year. Texas probably had a great year. I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying on this. And I said the same thing last year before the season, and we have to see how this season plays out. It played out well last year. If you're early draft guys that are early eligible for the NFL draft, if they have really good years and they go pro, that means your team's had a really good year. It generally doesn't work in reverse, right? I mean, if Cam Williams plays like a first or second round pick and he's gone after a year, Texas probably didn't go 7-5. I mean, like, unless they just had a slew of injuries at other positions. But if Cam Williams and DJ Campbell both play well enough to where they have that decision to make after this year, and we'll see what happens. They got to go do it. I'm not saying they're going to do it. They got to go do it. But if they do, to Stephen Houston's point, then Texas probably will have had a pretty good year on the field. Safe to say.
Black Wind also has this question we want to get to. Even though it's a scrimmage, how did the edge play look compared to last year? Jerry heard some nice things, in particular about Colin Simmons and Trey Moore playing in a NASCAR-like package for the Longhorns today. But I'll tell you what I know for a fact. There's just more elite level talent at edge than they've ever had in the recent history for Texas. And what I mean by that is you have both starters back. Barron Sorrell and Ethan Burke, both back, both look better than they did a year ago. Then you add a guy that had 14.5 sacks at UTSA. You had Colin Simmons. You also have Justice Finkley, who was maybe your top backup a year ago, and Colton Vasek is all of a sudden healthy. Texas has the difference between edge play this year and last year. Texas has more potential answers in different ways.
Yeah.
And that, I did not hear of any major sacks or anything like that yet. Again, we still have more news probably to come off of this. We're kind of going off of just what we've heard from a few people at this point. We will have more later. As Jerry's checking his phone right now, probably getting more texts, etc. That's important. But my point being, we've got to wait and see a little bit more on some of this. There's also other questions about punting and field goals, that sort of stuff. We'll have to take those a little bit later when we get more information.
Let's give a rundown before we go again of some of the things we heard that were key. Blackwell was the only guy that kind of got nicked up a little bit. Not the thought to be major, but the coaches, everybody has to talk. They have to kind of get through that. That was in a run fit against Christian Clark. Wide receivers definitely rotated a lot today. Matthew Golden, I think, has got a really good rapport with Quinn Ewers. Manning, Wingo connected a lot, especially in 2-minute drill. Arch Manning looked really good in the 2-minute drills, did a great job checking down, just moving, quickly moving, or getting the ball out quick. Anthony Hill beat Banks and Brandon Baker, but for would-be sacks. But when we talk about those sacks, a lot of times those guys pull up, right? So quarterbacks, if the quarterback gets hit, everybody's running miles today. Hill also had a big hit on Jarrett Gibson in the run game and a run fit there. Again, Darian Gillette, third-team linebacker, was the 5th running back. So it went Blue, Wisner, who had a 35-yard catch and run off a screen. That was really impressive. So it was Blue, Wisner, Gibson, Clark, then Gillette at running back. Juan Davis getting a lot of run as a blocker, caught a wheel route for I think what was a touchdown. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I'm going by what I knew. Heard Nye Black lined up. He's as a tight end, but they moved him outside as an outside type of X at tight end, hunting matchups with him. Brandon Baker, Kojo. Bobby mentioned Kojo may have been a little nicked up. He's come on as second-team right tackle. Baker got some second-team right tackle reps. NASCAR, Simmons, Hill, Moore, Burke were the key in that package with Simmons playing Sam backer. Texas has also tinkered with Moore as a Sam backer. Safeties, Taft, Makuba got the most runs with the ones. Derek Williams and McDonald did get reps with the ones. Derek Williams got a lot of run with the ones in the red zone. Makuba had an INT on Arch in the end zone, which was more of a good play from Makuba than bad throw by Arch. Gilbo was number 1 with the nickels. Barron was number 2 nickels, did get some reps at corner. Barron also, one of the interesting things in red zone, since we have all these people that just joined us, I'm just kind of reiterating this stuff. There was a time where Texas took a D lineman off the field when just working on some red zone defensive stuff and had Gilbo and Barron in. So almost had 2 nickels in red zone defense. They're just tinkering. Tia Savea, obviously, I said that and mentioned I heard his name a couple of times. Collins Broughton, that's starting 2 defensive linemen. Lole on a pitch count. Alex January, again, got some key reps. Alex January is going to play this year. He continues to do well.
Want to add a couple other things. Ball security in the red zone by the young freshman was a question mark, and some of the balls may went on the ground today.
I think both guys had a fumble in the red zone.
Yeah, so be aware of that. And then also, I just go back to, I mean, it's just a completely innocuous text, but we talked about how Steve Sarkisian is going to have a quarterback be the most important player on the team. I got the text that just says, look, if I don't even like quarterbacks, and the Texas quarterbacks are really good. This is clearly a guy that used to be, one of those kind of guys that doesn't like quarterbacks, but he said, look, they look good. Should be interesting how that goes the rest of this year. All right, Jerry, that'll do it. We will come back. We will have more today. Don't worry about it. We also will have more reporting on TexasFootball.com. That's on TexasFootball.com. Right now, please sign up and become an OG for just $39.95 a year. Use the promo code OTFOG for just $39.95 for an entire year subscription of on TexasFootball.com. Jerry, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming out. Good luck this afternoon, guys. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Jerry, you got another one. Go for it.
We are Rod Babers days away, 21 days away. Blake Gideon days away. But Rod Babers the greatest 21 in Texas history. We're Rod Babers days away from the season.
All right. That's Gerry Hamilton. I'm Bobby Burton, guys. Y'all hook 'em.